If you are a family law firm doing paid consults, you have to know this math. All right, I'm not saying don't do them, but I strongly advise against them. And this is one of the videos I want to put together to really clear up why. Because I see all the same posts you do, right? Where people say, I close at 90% and I close at 100%, I close at 50%, right? The big problem with the phishing stories in the Facebook groups is that we don't know what type of leads they close at that rate. So let's say, for example, a firm says that they close at 80%. Well, what if all of that was referral traffic and it should be closing at 100%? Because for the most part, referrals close really high, right? So when you're taking advice from people, it's really important to define A, what type of leads are they getting, and then B, how are they tracking their numbers? Because most people don't track. So it's just a real cautionary tale, and a reason I feel so passionate about this is because this breaks firms, and it kills me when I see a firm spend a ton of money on marketing and then it doesn't work because of this one thing, right? And so I want to break down the math behind a free consult or case evaluation and a paid case evaluation or consult funnel. And this math, I will actually change some of the numbers to show you some of the different implications, right? So when you do a free consult, let's just pretend that this is with an attorney. It doesn't really matter. In general, salespeople close higher actually. Let's say that you get 100 leads, right? And because this metric for a lot of firms is hard to track, I'm just gonna say all of them are qualified, even though they're not going to be, but it is baked into this number here. So what happens with 100 leads is we should be booking 70% of those. That is the KPI if you're answering the phones and you're doing a semi-decent job booking that next appointment. In fact, answering services can usually achieve a 70% book rate. All right, so that means that we're gonna have 70 meetings on the calendar. Now, from there, not all of those meetings are gonna show up. And this is a reason why a lot of people start charging for consults is they get frustrated. And so usually what'll happen is 70% of them will actually show up. And the way you influence that number is you do reminders, you sell the consultation, you do it fast, you don't book it out 3 weeks later, and you'll have a 70% show rate, which means that we have talked to 49 people. Now, from here, this number can vary quite a bit. This is in fact a pretty high closing rate. 30% of those should close, right? I see it between 20 and 30%. It depends on your initial retainer. It depends on how well your sales team actually sells. 20% is like the benchmark. If you're doing 20%, you could be really, really profitable. And so at the end of this, right, you're gonna make $147,000 in value. Now where I pull that number out of is I have a $10,000 case value times 14.7 clients. I know you can't get 0.7 clients, but you get the idea. And this is extremely, extremely profitable. 100 leads will generally cost you around 10K. So what we're doing, and this is every month by the way, we are trading 10K for 150K. And I don't know about you, I would do that all day long and twice on Sundays, right? So this is an extremely profitable funnel. Now, let me just step off camera for 1 second and change a number. Let's just say that we were hitting the KPI that we talked about. So I just changed this number to 20% now. We're still making $100,000 off of $10,000 in spend. So again, super, super profitable. This can be done by any family law firm, no matter how big or small you are, right? A solo usually will hit these numbers pretty easily as long as they're answering the phones and they're booking at the right rate. So this is what a pay or a free consult funnel will look like. Now let's talk about a paid consult funnel. So over here, we have a paid consult funnel. So everything is the same here. We have our 100 leads and 100% of them are qualified. That number doesn't change because you do paid consults, because they come in through the ads that don't say you do paid consults. Unless you say you do paid consults in the ads, it does not change the lead quality. All right, it's a huge concept. Hopefully I explained that well enough, right? So now generally what happens in a paid consult flow is you might book 10% of the leads. That is honestly being kind of generous if you're booking 10%. And so this is my lovely art skills. I made this part of the funnel a little smaller. It took a long time, believe it or not, because I had to overlay this on a Google Sheet, so give me a break. So we're gonna have 10% of those leads show up or book on our calendar. Now the assumption is because they paid for the consult, all of them are gonna show up. And this is actually true. For the most part, all of those people are gonna show up. Maybe you have a 98% show rate because something crazy happened. So we're gonna talk to 10 people. Now, the other assumption is that because they paid for a consult, they're gonna close a little bit higher than this flow over here, right? So I put 20% over here generally, and we're just gonna assume that because they paid, they're a little more qualified, so sure, we're gonna close them a little higher. In this funnel, you're gonna make 30 grand, right? And you're not gonna make that up front because that's paid for the lifetime of the case. If you have a $10,000 case value, if you have higher case values, great. But that's 10K for your divorce clients, right? Now, you're still paying 10K in ads for this outcome. And so over here, you're getting a 10-to-1 on your ad spend, and over here, you're getting a 3-to-1 on your ad spend, right? That's if you're booking at 10% and if you're closing at 30%. Now let's play a little Excel millionaire. I'm gonna change this number first. I'm gonna put this down to a 20% closing rate because let's just say that you can't close higher. All right, so now we're at a 20% closing rate. Now for our 10K over here, we're making 20K. And now we're thinking, my gosh, marketing does not work for me. It's crap. I knew it was a lie. They always lie. Screw those marketers, right? Now we're making 20 grand. Now, I'm gonna put this number back to 30%, but I'm gonna manipulate this number, all right? So let's just say that we are still rockstar salespeople. We're closing at 30%, but now let's just say that we're only booking consults at 5%. And this is extremely possible. And in fact, some firms don't even book them because generally how the intake call sounds is someone says, hello, I'm looking for a divorce attorney. And the intake person says, okay, it's $350 to talk to the attorney. Click. That's how it goes, right? So it could be really, really damaging to your sales funnel. And so if you book at 5% and all of them show up and you're still a rock star, you're closing at 30%, now you're making $15,000 off of your 10K investment. And if you're wondering where this number comes from, it's 100 leads times $100 because roughly over the nation, that's what a divorce lead is going to cost you. It could be $80, it could be $70, it could be 180 depending on the state you're in. 100 is a really, really common average. And so now what happens is we pay 10K to make 15K, and by the time you pay your vendor in that or whoever you're doing or whoever's doing your marketing, you're not making any money on your PPC. So you went from making a 10x return or higher to losing money on this. And it's all because of this single number right here, right? Super, super powerful. One number in the sales funnel kills the whole thing. And so this is why I get so passionate about paid consults, is because people don't talk about this math in the Facebook group. They just say that I'm making 10 million bucks, but they don't say that all of them are referrals, right? Because referrals do not count for this. Referrals will pay your consult fee, but I also think in the back of my mind, how many more would pay or how many more would come in if you weren't doing this? So always scrub out referrals when you're talking about marketing data because you can't scale referrals. You can, but it's not easy, right? So this is the math. Hopefully this helps. I'll see you in the next video.